Since childhood, you've been fed a lie about charm. You were told it's about being friendly, about smiling more, remembering birthdays, cracking jokes, making people feel comfortable. But that's not real charm. That's decoration. True charm, the kind that bends people, disarms rivals, and keeps enemies awake at night, is not about warmth. It's about fear, specifically the fear of losing your attention. Real charm lives on a razor's edge, balanced between allure and threat. It's not safe. It's dangerous. It makes people lean toward you, even as part of them wants to pull away, because they know deep down that your charm isn't a gift. It's a weapon. And once they realize they can't control it, you own them. Machiavelli never wrote about charm as a tool for pleasantries or courtly games. He wrote for predators, for operators who understand that the most dangerous man isn't the one who points a weapon at you, it's the one who makes you beg for his approval while the knife rests quietly at your throat. This isn't about becoming charming in the usual sense. It's about becoming dangerously charming. The kind of presence that paralyzes rivals, unsettles critics, and turns even your enemies into desperate admirers. Not through flattery, not through force, but through the unbearable tension of calculated unpredictability. The weak see charm as a tool for being liked. The ruthless see charm as a tool for control. And control is never given, it's seized. Seized in that silent space between a compliment and a threat, a smile and a stare, a touch and a retreat. Most people try to charm by fitting in. They mirror gestures, they nod along, they agree too quickly. They're safe, predictable, forgettable. But the Machiavellian charmer doesn't aim to be liked. He aims to make others uncomfortable in their own skin. He dangles connection just out of reach, rewards loyalty with a glance, punishes doubt with silence. Every interaction feels like a gamble, and he holds all the cards. The dark genius of this is simple charm isn't what you give, it's what you withhold. The moment you make your attention scarce, your words precise, and your affection conditional, you stop being merely desirable. You become necessary. And necessity breeds obsession. Obsession breeds control. That's how charm becomes a weapon. Not by offering more, but by offering less. Less explanation, less validation, less certainty. You don't announce your value. You force others to prove they're worthy of it. Machiavelli understood this. Men are so simple, he wrote, and yield so much to immediate desires that the deceiver will never lack dupes. But the true master isn't the deceiver. It's the one who lets others deceive themselves. You plant the seed. You could be special to me if you prove it. And like moths to a flame, they burn themselves chasing something you never promised. This isn't manipulation. It's architecture, psychological architecture. You build the frame, you set the traps, and you let them walk in willingly. The first law of dangerous charm is this: never charm to be loved, charm to be feared. Because when someone calls you charming, they're not giving you a compliment. They're making a confession. They're admitting you've slipped past their defenses, and from that moment, the game belongs to you. The second law of dangerous charm is tension. Most people try to ease tension. In a room, they laugh too quickly. They rush to fill silences. They smooth over awkward pauses. But a Machiavellian understands that tension is not a problem. Tension is the hook. Tension is what keeps people leaning forward, waiting for your next move. Think about the last time you met someone who didn't rush to respond, who let silence stretch, who seemed completely comfortable with the discomfort that everyone else felt. What happened? You started paying more attention. You wondered what they were thinking. You adjusted your own behavior to break the tension. Without saying a word, they made you dance. That's the essence of charm, not putting others at ease, but putting them slightly on edge. The ruthless charmer knows that human beings are addicted to resolution. We can't stand open loops. When you hold back your approval, when you don't immediately explain yourself, when you pause before answering, you create a loop in their mind that they are desperate to close. And the only way to close it is to keep paying attention to you. Machiavelli would say control begins when they start trying to interpret you. When they start filling the silence with their own guesses, you've already won. Because their guesses are shaped by desire. They want you to like them. They want your validation. They want your attention. And in that hunger, they surrender the frame. But tension is not just silence. It's rhythm. Sometimes you move close. Sometimes you pull away. Sometimes you flatter, sometimes you ignore. Sometimes you reward, sometimes you withhold. Like a predator circling prey, you keep them unsure of where they stand. Uncertainty is the heartbeat of dangerous charm. It creates obsession because the brain clings hardest to what it cannot predict. Most people are predictable. They smile when you smile. They agree when you nod. They comfort when you frown. But the dangerous charmer doesn't mirror, he disrupts. He introduces contrast, a smile when they expect indifference, a silence when they expect praise, a cutting remark after a compliment. Every move destabilizes, and in that destabilization, you become magnetic. Tension makes you memorable. Anyone can be pleasant. Pleasant is forgettable. But the one who unsettled you, who made your heart race, who left you unsure, that's the one you remember. That's the one you talk about. That's the one you can't get out of your head. So the second law is this: don't erase tension. Cultivate it. Play with it. Stretch it until the other person begins to break, then release it with a glance, a word, a gesture. That release becomes addictive. And once someone is addicted to the way you make them feel, they're no longer free. They're caught in your orbit. Dangerous charm isn't about comfort. It's about control. And control is never comfortable. It's irresistible. The third law of dangerous charm is contrast. People are drawn to extremes, to the unexpected shift between warmth and cold presence, and absence, praise, and indifference. The weak think charm is about being consistently nice, always agreeable, always available. But Machiavelli would laugh at this. Predictable sweetness breeds boredom. It is the sudden change, the sharp contrast that electrifies. Imagine someone who flatters you constantly. At first it feels good, but soon it fades into noise. Now imagine someone who praises you once, then ignores you for days. That single compliment lingers far longer because of its rarity. Scarcity magnifies value. Contrast makes the ordinary unforgettable. Dangerous charm thrives on this push and pull. One moment you reward, the next you withhold. One moment you offer closeness, the next you retreat into silence. This inconsistency doesn't weaken you. It strengthens the hold you have, because the brain becomes addicted to unpredictability. It starts chasing the high of your approval, wondering when it will come next. This is how obsession is born. Machiavelli knew that power is not just in presence, but in absence. Your silence, your withdrawal, your distance, these are as potent as your attention, if not more. A ruler who is always visible becomes ordinary. A ruler who appears rarely with deliberate timing becomes a legend. Charm works the same way. It is not the constant flood of attention that binds people to you, but the sudden drops and returns, the rhythm of uncertainty. The weak give too much. They explain too much. They reveal too much. The ruthless give less, and in giving less, they are desired more. To be dangerously charming, you must master the art of withholding. Don't always answer questions. Don't always return affection. Don't always clarify your intent. Let people wonder. Let them ache for resolution. Their imagination will work harder than your words ever could. But contrast isn't just about withholding. It's also about intensity. When you choose to give fully. A sudden flash of warmth, a sharp look, a rare compliment, these moments hit harder because they come after silence. The scarcity amplifies the impact. The unpredictability fuels the obsession. This is why dangerous charm feels like a storm. Calm skies one moment, thunder the next. People don't forget storms. They remember the tension, the unpredictability, the way it made them feel alive. Safe weather is ignored. Storms are legendary. So the third law is this: never be consistent. Be deliberate in your contrasts. Offer warmth sparingly. Retreat into coldness strategically. Appear when least expected, withdraw when most desired. In this rhythm of opposites, you stop being just a person, they turn you into an obsession. Because charm isn't about being liked, it's about being unforgettable. And the unforgettable are never safe, they're dangerous. The fourth law of dangerous charm is scarcity. What is scarce becomes valuable. What is abundant becomes disposable. Most people give themselves away too easily: their time, their words, their attention. They believe constant presence builds connection. In truth, constant presence kills mystery, and without mystery, there is no charm. Machiavelli understood that distance multiplies desire. A ruler who shows himself rarely is always more respected than the one who begs to be seen daily. In the same way, your charm grows not from being endlessly available, but from making yourself scarce. Not absent forever, but rare enough that your attention feels like a prize. Scarcity is not just physical, it's psychological. Don't explain everything. Don't answer every question. Don't expose every thought. When you reveal, less people create their own narratives to fill the silence. And those narratives often elevate you higher than any truth could. Mystery is a mirror. The less you show, the more others project. But scarcity must be crafted carefully. Too much absence and you vanish from memory. Too much presence and you lose weight. The dangerous charmer knows how to walk the line, appearing just enough to spark obsession, retreating just enough to fuel hunger. Think of it as fire. Too much wood smothers the flame. Too little and it dies. The art is in the balance. Scarcity also transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. A single word from you, if rare, becomes unforgettable. A single look, if rare, becomes haunting. A single compliment, if rare, becomes something replayed for weeks. People remember not because you gave often, but because you gave rarely. The less they receive, the harder they cling. And scarcity doesn't just apply to attention, it applies to emotion. Don't give everyone your warmth. Don't give everyone your humor. Don't give everyone your approval. Save it for the few who matter, and even then give it sparingly. Scarce emotion creates loyal subjects. Endless emotion creates entitled parasites. This is why the most dangerously charming people often feel like they're just out of reach. You can't quite catch them. You can't quite read them. You can't quite own them. And that distance drives people mad. They want to be the exception, the one who gets more of you than anyone else. That desire makes them chase, and in chasing, they hand you control. So the fourth law is this: never make yourself common. Be rare. Be selective. Be distant enough to be desired, present enough to be remembered. Let your silence weigh more than other people's noise. Let your absence cut deeper than their presence. Scarcity is not withdrawal, it's strategy. Because when you are scarce, you are valuable. And when you are valuable, charm becomes power. The fifth law of dangerous charm is unpredictability. Predictable people are easy to manage. You know what they'll say, how they'll react, and what they'll tolerate. But the dangerously charming person unsettles others because no one can ever be sure what comes next. One moment you're warm, the next you're cold. One day you're generous, the next you're distant. This instability doesn't repel, it attracts. Because the human mind craves patterns, and when it can't find one, it becomes addicted to the search. Machiavelli knew that predictability is a weakness. Once your enemies can read you, they can control you. Once your friends can predict you, they take you for granted. But when no one can fully anticipate your moves, they tread carefully, always off balance. That caution is power. Unpredictability isn't about chaos. It's about rhythm. You give just enough to create hope, then you withdraw. You offer silence when they expect explanation. You deliver kindness when they expect cruelty. Each disruption breaks their certainty, forcing them to adapt to you. And the more they adapt to you, the more you control the frame. Think of it as a game of cards. The predictable player reveals tells his patterns, his routines. He might win for a while, but eventually the table learns him. The unpredictable player, however, never plays the same way twice. He can't be read, can't be cornered, can't be anticipated. His mystery is his shield. His inconsistency is his weapon. This unpredictability also creates emotional addiction. When someone never knows whether you'll embrace them or ignore them, praise them or cut them down, every interaction becomes a gamble. And the thrill of that gamble hooks them. They start chasing the high of your approval, clinging tighter because they can't predict when or how it will come again. That uncertainty makes your attention priceless. But here's the subtlety: too much unpredictability becomes chaos, and chaos breeds rebellion. The ruthless charmer knows when to stabilize, when to anchor with a moment of consistency before shifting again. It's the rhythm between stability and disruption that keeps people chasing. Predictable enough to seem safe, unpredictable enough to feel dangerous. Machiavelli would say people fear what they cannot calculate. They respect what they cannot measure. They obey what they cannot predict. Dangerous charm thrives in that space where curiosity and fear blur, where desire and caution collide. So the fifth law is this: never be fully known. Be the storm. They can't forecast the fire. They can't control the shadow they can't define. Because when they can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. And when they can't prepare for you, you already own the game. The sixth law of dangerous charm is illusion. Most people rely on honesty as a virtue, as if truth alone makes them trustworthy. But Machiavelli knew better. People don't crave truth. They crave stories. They crave belief. They crave illusions that flatter their desires. And the dangerously charming person understands this. He doesn't lie recklessly, but he shapes illusions, carefully crafting narratives that others want to believe. Illusion works because people rarely check reality. They're too consumed with their own hopes, fears, and vanity. Tell someone they're loyal, and they'll work harder to prove it true. Tell someone they're exceptional, and they'll break themselves to live up to it. The illusion doesn't have to be real, it only has to be persuasive. Charm thrives in this space where perception outweighs fact. But illusion isn't only about words, it's about atmosphere. A silence that feels deliberate, a glance that feels significant, a presence that feels larger than life. The dangerously charming person becomes a mirror, reflecting back what others most want to see. To the ambitious, he looks like opportunity. To the weak, he looks like protection. To the powerful, he looks like an equal. Each illusion tailored, each illusion sustained just long enough to bind. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. In other words, appearances rule reality. A ruler who looks strong is treated as strong even if he is weak. A ruler who appears merciful is loved even if he is calculating. And the same applies to charm. People rarely love you, they love the version of you they've imagined. The dangerous charmer simply feeds that imagination. But here's the secret: illusions must always have cracks. If you make the illusion too perfect, it becomes unbelievable. Leave gaps, leave mysteries, leave contradictions. These cracks don't weaken the illusion, they strengthen it. Because the human mind is addicted to solving puzzles. The more people wonder about you, the deeper they fall into the trap of trying to understand you. And the more they try to understand, the tighter your hold becomes. This is why dangerous charm often feels haunting. People can't quite explain it. They can't quite pin it down. They replay conversations, analyze silences, search for meaning. And in that endless search, they make you larger in their mind than you ever were in reality. That is the genius of illusion. You let them do the work. So the sixth law is this: don't reveal yourself fully. Feed fragments. Reflect desires. Create atmospheres. Let people build illusions around you and then quietly reinforce those illusions until they trap themselves. Because the truth rarely controls people, but the illusion they choose to believe that rules them completely. The seventh law of dangerous charm is emotional leverage. Most people treat emotions as accidents, things that just happen, things they can't control. But the Machiavellian charmer sees emotions as levers, tools to tilt people one way or another. You don't need to control everything they think. You only need to control how they feel when they're near you. Think of it like this: logic convinces the mind, but emotion enslaves it. People may argue with your ideas, but they cannot resist the way you make them feel. If you can create exhilaration, tension relief, or even fear at will, you stop being just another person in their life. You become the one who dictates their emotional climate. That control is more addictive than any argument. But emotional leverage isn't about being reckless. It's about precision. A single compliment at the right moment can make someone chase your approval for weeks. A sudden silence after warmth can make them question themselves endlessly. A flash of coldness delivered sparingly can make even the confident doubt they're standing. Each shift pushes them deeper into your orbit. Machiavelli noted that people are driven more by fear and hope than by reason. Dangerous charm plays both sides. You give hope with a glance, then take it away with silence. You create fear with distance, then relieve it with presence. The cycle of hope and fear is what creates obsession. They cling to you not because you're safe, but because you're the only one who can end the storm you started. The secret here is restraint. Overuse dulls the effect. Too much fear and people flee. Too much hope and they grow entitled. The ruthless charmer balances both, keeping people suspended in uncertainty, never fully secure, never fully abandoned. That suspended state is where control lives. And here's the paradox: people will complain about it. They'll say you're difficult, mysterious, unsettling, but they won't leave. Because underneath they're addicted. Addicted to the highs and lows you create. Addicted to the way you make them feel more alive than the safe, predictable comfort of others. So the seventh law is this: master the levers of emotion. Don't aim to persuade minds, enslave hearts. Don't chase agreement, create addiction. Dangerous charm is not about always being pleasant. It's about being unforgettable. And nothing imprints deeper than the emotions you plant, twist, and release at will. The eighth law of dangerous charm is presence. Not the kind of presence that comes from loudness or constant visibility, but the kind that shifts the atmosphere the moment you enter a room. True presence is silent gravity. It pulls attention without asking for it. People look, people notice, people adjust themselves around you. That is presence. Most people dilute their presence by trying too hard. They laugh loudly, move quickly, speak constantly, as if desperate to prove they belong. But the Machiavellian charmer knows that the less effort you show, the stronger your presence becomes. Stillness radiates confidence. Measured movement signals control. A pause before speaking makes every word heavier. Presence isn't about filling space, it's about owning it with minimal effort. Machiavelli understood that rulers didn't always need armies to command respect. Sometimes it was the aura, the impression that they saw more, knew more, and feared less than anyone else in the room. Presence creates hierarchy without words. It makes people instinctively measure themselves against you, and in that comparison, they place themselves below you. But presence is not only external, it begins internally. If your mind is scattered, if your emotions are restless, your body betrays it. Presence starts with sovereignty over yourself. Slow breath, steady focus, deliberate stillness. The world feels it even before you speak. Dangerous charm amplifies presence by weaving mystery into it. You don't reveal everything with your eyes. You don't rush to explain your silence. You let people wonder, what is he thinking? What does she know? That wondering is what magnifies your aura. The less they know, the more they imagine, and imagination always paints you larger than life. Presence is also about contrast. When you speak rarely, your voice hits harder. When you appear sparingly, your arrival carries weight. When you withdraw, suddenly your absence lingers. Presence is not just about being there, it's about controlling when and how you are there. Appear as a storm, vanish like smoke. That rhythm keeps you unforgettable. The weak crave attention. The dangerous charmer makes attention inevitable. By controlling energy, by controlling silence, by controlling rhythm, you become the axis the room turns around. Not because you forced it, but because your presence left no alternative. So the eighth law is this: cultivate presence like a weapon. Stand still when others fidget. Speak less when others ramble. Move slower when others rush. Let silence hang heavier than noise. Presence is not something you chase, it's something you command. And once you command it, charm no longer needs words. Your existence alone becomes the message. The ninth law of dangerous charm is danger itself. Charm without danger is sweetness, pleasant, harmless, forgettable. But when charm carries a shadow, a sense that beneath the smile lies steel, that behind the glance lies something untouchable, it becomes magnetic. People are drawn not just to what soothes them, but to what unsettles them in ways they can't explain. Danger is not violence. It is potential. It's the quiet possibility that you could strike but choose not to. It's the aura that says, I am in control of myself, and therefore I can control you. This edge is what makes people lean forward, what keeps them cautious, what transforms curiosity into obsession. Machiavelli warned that fear often lasts longer than love. The dangerously charming person blends both. They create warmth with their presence, but never let anyone forget the sharpness beneath it. That duality is irresistible, the safe place that isn't safe, the comfort wrapped around a hidden blade. People return to it again and again because it makes them feel alive. But danger must be disciplined. Too much and people flee. Too little and you fade into the background. The ruthless charmer calibrates it like a dose, just enough to provoke adrenaline, just enough to remind them you cannot be owned. The unpredictability of when that danger might surface is what binds them tighter. This is why the most dangerously charming figures in history linger in memory. They weren't simply attractive, they were unsettling. They carried a tension that no one else could duplicate. People admired them, feared them, hated them, desired them all at once. And in that collision of emotions, they became unforgettable. Danger is also what separates you from the masses. Anyone can be kind, anyone can be agreeable, but not everyone can hold power while smiling, remain calm, while radiating threat, or speak gently while implying consequences. That contrast makes your charm lethal. So the ninth law is this: weave danger into your charm. Let it shimmer beneath the surface of your calm. Let it flicker in your silence. Let it haunt your kindness. Make people feel that to lose your approval is not just sad, it is costly. Because true charm is not just the art of attraction, it is the art of domination disguised as attraction. And domination always carries the scent of danger. The 10th and final law of dangerous charm is inevitability. Real charm doesn't just attract in the moment it lingers, it haunts. It reshapes the way people see themselves long after you're gone. Most people fade from memory. The dangerously charming are remembered because they leave no escape. Their presence becomes a frame that others can't step outside of. Inevitability comes from weaving all the laws together: tension, contrast, scarcity, unpredictability, illusion, emotional leverage, presence, danger into one seamless rhythm. Each on its own unsettles. Together they form a system that traps people without them ever realizing it. They don't just like you, they orbit you. They measure themselves against you. They carry you in their thoughts long after the conversation ends. Machiavelli would call this the highest form of power, the ability to control not only behavior in the moment, but memory afterward. When someone can't stop replaying your words, your silences, your contradictions, they are ruled by you, even in your absence. That is inevitability. But here's the paradox: inevitability isn't built by force. It's built by restraint. You don't overwhelm people with attention. You don't flood them with affection. You don't explain yourself into predictability. You offer fragments, glimpses, hints. And in those fragments, they build a version of you far larger than life, a version they can't stop chasing. The dangerously charming person doesn't need to dominate every second. He understands that the echo is more powerful than the sound. A single glance, if perfectly timed, can echo longer than 1,000 words. A single absence, if deliberate, can weigh heavier than constant presence. Inevitability is the mastery of echoes. And when you master this, you no longer chase influence. Influence chases you. People compete for your attention, adapt to your rhythm, shape their choices around your imagined approval. You become the axis around which their inner world spins. That is the silent crown of charm, the crown no one can see but everyone feels. So the 10th law is this: never aim to be liked. Aim to be inevitable. Let your presence haunt your silence, linger your unpredictability, addict your danger command. Let them remember you against their will. Because when charm becomes inevitability, you don't just win attention, you win minds, hearts, and futures. That is the art of dangerous charm: not to be sweet, not to be safe, but to be unforgettable.